Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Queen Sugar Season 3, Episode 4, which was titled No Haven in My Shadow. And yes, I am behind, but I am determined to get caught up on all these videos that I owe you guys. I'm going to be recapping Love Is, and I need to catch up on the last 2 episodes of Red Table Talk. And then there are a couple of other videos that I want to do that aren't recaps, but basically just some thoughts that I have about different things. So hopefully, since some of the shows won't be airing new episodes this week because of the 4th of July, I will be able to get everything caught up. But let's go ahead and get into this recap. So as we saw on the last episode, Darla is back. And so I thought something looked odd about Darla, you know, when she was hugging Blue at the end of the episode. But then Ralph Angel points out that her hair is shorter, that she cut her hair. Then I realized that Darla looks a little older on this episode, so maybe they're trying to make her look more mature, because in this season, you know, she has to stand in her truth, and she's got to be strong and stand up to Ralph Angel and the rest of the Bordelon clan, because they won't be acting kind of funky with Darla this season. And then I realized that what it really was is that Darla had on a wig. Now, I don't know if her hair in the previous seasons was her hair, because it's really thin and it was very long, but it looked like her real hair. But this is obviously a wig that she has on in this season. And some people were pointing out that they didn't think it was a very good wig, or that the wig didn't fit her, and that, you know, they should have enough money that they could have did better by Darla. But I just thought it made her look older. And then I also found out that Darla is 39 years old in real life. Like, I never would have pegged her for being that old, which really makes the whole situation even more complex, considering that what's his name that plays Ralph Angel's Kofi Sidibo, whatever his name is, he's only in his 20s. So the fact that they have them paired together and they look like they're the same age, I thought was very interesting. Well, anyway, Blue is happy that his mama is back, and he invites her to this bonfire that they're going to do to commemorate Ernest's life and legacy. So they send Blue into his room so the two of them can talk, and Darla basically lets Ralph Angel know that she's back in St. Joe for good, and that although we don't know how Darla is maintaining herself, maybe her parents gave her some money, maybe Darla then found a job while she was in DC. We don't even know how long Darla been gone, but Darla says she's back, and that she wants to help out, and she wants to co-parent, and that Ralph Angel needs to get over it and get over himself. And I was just like, okay, now Darla then came a long way, and let him know that, you know, she ain't that guilt-ridden woman that he first met. You know, she's going to stand her ground. And so Ralph Angel says that, you know, he doesn't know how, you know, he's supposed to make all of this work. But Darla makes it very clear that as long as Blue is in St. Joe, that is where she will be also. So she is prepared to do whatever it takes to make it work and to be in her son's life. So Darla goes and puts Blue to bed, and she comes back out to talk to Ralph Angel about the fact that Blue has plastic on his bed. So remember, guys, Blue has been wetting the bed since Darla left. And so Ralph Angel, you know, explains to her, you know, well, you know, he's been going through, you know, these traumatic experiences, and it's, you know, getting to him. So yes, he's been wetting the bed. And so she's upset, you know, that Ralph Angel didn't tell her, you know, but he says that Blue didn't want anybody to know because he was embarrassed. And then he also explains that Blue doesn't want a birthday party this year because last year when he had his birthday party, Ernest was there. And that, you know, that's why they're doing the bonfire instead. Because Ernest he went to the hospital the night of Blue's birthday. Now, y'all know these timelines are not adding up. I don't care what nobody says. And someone commented on my last recap and was saying that Ernest has only been dead a year. But in my mind, I mean, in all reality and all the stuff that has taken place, it has to be longer than that. And then I thought that Charley had mentioned in episode 2 that a year had passed, but I guess I'm wrong. And as we went through this episode, they kept making it very clear that this is the 1-year anniversary of Ernest's passing, which is probably so convoluted because they have different writers for the different episodes and some stuff is getting lost in the mix. Because let's think about it. Ernest died. Then they had to save the land or figure out what they were going to do with the land. And remember when the Hispanic man died on the property, were they planting? I think they were planting the seeds for the harvest. So the harvest had to come in. And then Charley went through the whole thing where she bought the sugar mill. She had to refurbish that whole place. She had to get the place up and running. I'm sure they had to have like the EPA come in and inspect. Like, all this stuff takes months at a time. We don't just do this stuff overnight. So then the harvest comes in and they're getting ready to harvest the crops and take it to the mill. And that's when she had all this trouble with the Landrys where they were scaring the people off and everything. Now we in season 3. Ernest died in season 1. So there is no way that all this has happened in a year. And then we come into this year. Oh, and then we had the whole thing with Davis, and then, you know, getting Davis from LA to New Orleans. And then when the season ended last year, Davis was supposed to be going back to Los Angeles to have surgery. The season was getting ready, the new basketball season was getting ready to start. He was going to be gone 6 to 8 weeks, you know, for surgery and rehab. And then when we start this season, Davis is back, but Davis has not mentioned basketball. He ain't been to no basketball game. He ain't been to basketball practice. He ain't been on the basketball court. So we don't know if the season has started, if they're in the middle of the season, if it's the end of the season, like, and they back into the postseason again. Like, they're just excluding all of this. And then we got, you know, Micah going from the Sedity private school to now he's at St. Joe. And then they were playing basketball at St. Joe, but basketball season comes after football season. So then that would make it like November or December. It's just too much for me. And I guess as a writer, I just be paying too much attention to some of this stuff. But I do know that a lot of people are saying that they are bored, that this season is very boring. They're bored with the show, and that if things don't pick up soon, that they are checking out of Queen Sugar. So back to Ralph Angel and Darla. So Ralph Angel, you know, he gets in his feelings and says that Darla should have told him that she was coming back. And she counters that she tried, but he wouldn't listen. So at dinner, the three of them, they go out to a restaurant, and Darla says that she wants to go with Blue on a class field trip that he's having. But Ralph Angel doesn't want her to, and he's saying how, you know, he's already made arrangements with the school. He doesn't feel that the paperwork and all this stuff. But then the two of them have like a standoff while Blue is gone to the bathroom. And Ralph Angel, you know, lets her know that despite what she thinks, everything has changed. And so I was like thinking he was about to tell her, you know, that Blue ain't my son. I ain't the daddy, got dogging. But, you know, he didn't say anything. He just said everything has changed, whether Darla knows it or not. And so, y'all, I'm just waiting for that episode where Ralph Angel gets so angry and yells out and let Darla know that he done did that DNA testing and that Blue is not his child, because it is evident at this point that Darla knows nothing about that DNA test that they did. Which doesn't make sense, because why hasn't she suggested, like, okay, let's go ahead and get a DNA test so we can move forward and put all this stuff behind us. So the fact that she isn't insisting on a DNA test at this point is really stupid. And anyway, So later that evening, Blue is talking to Nova and his dad about, well, actually it wasn't later that evening, it was later in the episode. And he's talking to Nova and his dad about their mother and asking questions like what type of person was she and everything. So they're sitting around talking. And then he says that the letter that he's going to write for the bonfire ceremony was to say thank you to Ernest for bringing Darla home and, you know, getting them all back together because he missed her so much. And so I guess he's thinking back to the funeral, because remember when they had the funeral, Darla was supposed to watch Blue while they went to the funeral because her and Ralph Angel weren't really communicating. And then she ended up coming to the funeral after she was able to get off from work. So we go over to Aunt Vi. So Aunt Vi making her pies. And so she calls Charley, barking at Charley like Charley ain't got nothing to do, and telling Charley that she needs to go take Prosper to a doctor's appointment because, you know, Prosper got to have surgery on his back, and that she would call Nova, but Nova was at the store buying supplies, and it's just everybody got to chip in and help out because now that she's making these pies for that store, you know, she busy and she need everybody to help. So she really don't give Charley the opportunity to say no. So then when she hangs up the phone with Charley, Nova calls. But Nova was not at the store buying supplies. Nova was at home brainstorming for her book and trying to come up with ideas. And so when she calls Aunt Vi, you know, she's fishing for inspiration and trying to get some of Aunt Vi's story. But Aunt Vi's like, girl, I got to cook these pies. I ain't got time to be on this phone talking to you. So then Miss Effie from the church comes in and she's like, oh my God, like, why are you in here? Why isn't this kitchen cleaned up? Because some organization uses the church on Wednesday night to sell dinners. So Aunt Vi says she don't know nothing about that because her contract says that she has use of that kitchen up until 5:30 every day, Monday through Friday. But Miss Effie says she don't know what's going on. But on Wednesdays, Aunt Vi need to be out by 4 o'clock because this organization is coming in and they are need this kitchen, and the kitchen need to be cooked up. So Aunt Vi was there talking about her contract and everything, and then Miss Essie let Vi know that she wasn't making no changes because those people were church-going folks. And so she wasn't kicking them out that kitchen. So it was Aunt Vi that needed to pack up her stuff and get out so them people could come in and cook their dinner. And then I don't know how long Aunt Vi has been up there because Aunt Vi said to the lady, you know, I've been paying y'all every week and you ain't had no problem cashing my checks. So I'm like, okay, so how much time done passed by again? Aunt Vi, how long you been up there? And this is the first time that Miss Effie done came in and said there's an issue with you not being out of the kitchen by 5:30 or by 4 o'clock, or was this the first time that Aunt Vi had been there until the late hour that she was there? I don't know, it was kind of confusing to me. So later on, Aunt Vi and Hollywood are delivering pies, and they were in the car, I think. And so when he gets out with the pies and he's going into the store, he's like, Vi, I think some of the pies, you know, have been damaged, that they're smushed or something. And Aunt Vi was like leaning on the car because she was having some kind of episode with her lupus, because y'all know Aunt Vi going through it with the lupus. Remember, she was at the reunion about to pass out, and she was about to pass out at the store, but she tell Hollywood, hold on, you know, let me come see what's going on. So Hollywood suggests that he take some of his money, his settlement money, and buy a delivery truck, you know, but Aunt Vi says that she doesn't want that because she's afraid of being beholden to anybody, and that, you know, she talks about how Jimmy, what's his name? Jimmy Dale, the ex-husband, how he bought the house that she currently lives in, and that he never let her forget that he bought that house. And so she just doesn't like people throwing stuff back up in her face that they've done for her. And Lord, I had to testify to that because I used to date this guy, and he put a new roof on my house. And when I tell you I had to hear about that new roof and hear about that new roof and hear, the roof wasn't even new anymore, and he was still talking about that roof. And I was to the point where I was about to call up some Mexicans and rent a truck and have them come over here and take every shingle, every nail, every new piece of plywood, everything, every piece of tar paper off my roof and put it in the back of a dump truck and then take it over there and dump it in his driveway. Because I was like, first of all, I didn't ask you for the roof. Okay, you did it out of the kindness of your heart, you know, because you wanted to do something nice for me. And I think it was either Mother's Day or my birthday. But anyway, he surprised me with this roof. I was traveling with my daughter because my daughter used to play junior tennis. And we had gone away for the weekend. And when I came back home, I had a new roof on my house. And I was just like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. Then it turned into, my God, will you please stop talking about this damn roof? So, yeah, I understood Aunt Vi with that. Then Hollywood's response to Aunt Vi was that, you know, he ain't trying to take advantage of her or disrupt what she's trying to do. He just doesn't want her to be so prideful that she can't ask for help the way Ernest did, and then she ends up working herself to death instead of asking people for help or accepting help when people are offering it to her. So we move over to Charley. So Charley meets with her little investigator lady friend who has unveiled, you know, some of the accounting with the Boudreaux and the Landrys. And so she spells out, you know, everybody's percentages and how they came to have the percentages that they have. And I think she said that Jacob and his brother only had 5%, but they had to split their 5%. And then she was saying that Sam Landry's son had 10%, but he lives in New York or somewhere. He's a lawyer somewhere, and that he has a mistress that he takes care of. So she was just going through the little idiosyncrasies that everybody has and their little secrets. But she said that at the end of the day, she couldn't find anything illegal or any wrongdoing that any of them were doing in terms of the land. But Charley isn't buying that, and she says she'll get to the bottom of it because she knows something is going on. So then Charley goes to take Prosper to his appointment, and while he's looking for some papers or his insurance or something, she starts looking at some old pictures that he has on the wall, and then he had like an instrument case, and I think it was either a saxophone, maybe a saxophone. And so she was like, oh, you play? And then he was telling her, you know, about, yeah, how he used to go down, I guess, in the French Quarter somewhere and play with these other guys. And Ernest used to always come and joke with him and everything. So they were kind of like reminiscing over old times. So Charley has to come back the following day because he needs to go to the clinic. And so as they're walking out, he realizes that he left his jacket. So Charley was like, well, you go get in the car and I'll go back and get the jacket. So when she gets inside to get the jacket, there was a picture of Prosper and Ernest laying on the table, and then underneath the picture was all these papers about the land and his lease, and the fact that his lease was being terminated and he was being evicted off the property. So now she's like, okay, here's one more person who I thought owned their land that didn't own the land, and like, what in the world is going on? So they get to the clinic where I guess he was going to have his lab work and stuff, you know, to get ready for the surgery. And so they're sitting there talking, and Prosper starts telling her about his daughter, that once he has the surgery, that, you know, he'll call and tell his daughter, you know, what happened, and for her to come and help him during his rehab period. So Charley was sitting there like, your daughter don't know that you're having surgery? And so he was like, yeah, you know, I didn't want to worry her. And then Charley was like, okay, well, does she know that you're being evicted off your land? So Prosper was looking at her like, Helper, how you know I done been evicted off my land? Like, he was looking shocked and surprised. And then Charley says, oh, well, when I went back to get the jacket, I couldn't help but notice the papers laying on the table. So then he says, well, I need you to keep, you know, mind your own business and keep this to yourself. Don't tell anybody, you know, because he doesn't want anybody to know. So then they come and they call Prosper to go to the bank, and then Charley turns around and realizes that the nurse or the technician or whoever it was that had came to get Prosper was the guy that she met. Remember in the first or second episode, when she was leaving the bar and the guy helped her because her car wouldn't start? Well, it turns out that he's like some kind of medical field, like he's either a nurse or maybe a technician or something like that at this clinic. So then Charley was all nervous, like, oh my God, you know, it's not that I didn't want to call you back, it's just that I've been so busy. And the guy was like, well, it's okay, you know, it's no big deal, but if you change your mind, you know, I know this place that sells great pie. And he says, and they stay open, like basically telling her it's a 24-hour diner, so you ain't got no excuse about being busy because we can go any time of day or night to this. So then he walked on inside, and then Charley was standing there like, dang, I judged him thinking he was a nobody, and he actually has a job. And I was like, ooh, Charley, don't be that kind of person. So when Charley leaves, Prosper, I can never think of that man's name. She heads over to Jacob Boudreaux, who was having lunch at some bar. And so she's trying to find out why the farmers are being evicted. And he says that, you know, it's nothing malicious or underhanded, but because of the 2 hurricanes that had come through, that the runoff from the water contaminated the land, and now the EPA says that the land is contaminated with lead and that the people got to get off and they got to do whatever they got to do. And now that she's part of the business, you know, it's also her problem. And so, you know, Charley was kind of acting like she believed him, but she didn't really believe him. And so she was telling him, you know, our family friends are losing their land, and Prosper, my dad's best friend, you know, he's one of the people, he's lived on that land all his life. And so then Jacob was basically telling her to calm down, you know, we'll work something out, and, you know, we're going to compensate the people. And Charley was like, the people need more than $5,000. I'm thinking like, these people that farm this land for decades, and all y'all offering them is $5,000 a piece to relocate. Like, that is so low down and cold-hearted. But Jacob says that, you know, he's going to do what he can to help the people and, you know, see what he can do to work out, you know, to help Prosper or whatever. And I'm just sitting there like, Charley, girl, you got yourself in a mess. So back at the house, Davis comes by to pick up the child, what's the boy's name? Pick up Micah. And so, you know, he's talking to Charley, and he brings up the fact that Micah told him about the commemoration service for the dad. But Charley was looking at him like, you ain't invited. So she kind of like brushed it off, and then Micah came out. But Charley walked off like, boy, I am not inviting you to that. So Davis looked a little hurt. So him and Micah went to a video arcade, and while they were there, Davis got a phone call. So then later on, they're sitting in the car outside. And so David starts talking about the commemoration service again and how important Ernest was to him and accepting, and how he didn't have a father. So I'm just thinking that Davis is really, really hurt about not being invited to this service. But no, it was a lead in to kind of get Micah set for this news he was about to drop. So Davis tells Micah that he has a 13-year-old daughter named Tia, and that Tia came about as an affair with her mother while he was married to Charley, of course, and that he has been in her life, but, you know, now he wants Micah to meet Tia because Tia's mother has passed away. Just like, Davis, for the last 2 seasons, I have fought for you and Charley to work this thing out, but you just, I don't know, like, it's never ending with you. So he was trying to get Micah to understand, and Micah was like, what the hell, do my mama know about this? And he was like, no, your mama don't know. So Micah was done. Micah jumped out the truck and started walking off, and Davis was calling after him. And I'm like, okay, is y'all in New Orleans? Is y'all in St. Joe? How far is the arcade from Charley's house? Michael, where you going? Like, that boy is always walking off somewhere and always ends up at his final destination. So I guess Michael was going to be okay. Then we move over to Miss Nova. So Nova, you know, she can go through some men. She done been through the Calvin man. She done been through the girl. I can't even remember her name. Then she was with Dr. Dubois. She done ran him off. Now she got the goo-goo eyes for Remy. And Lord, people on social media are fighting this here storyline. They don't want this to happen no way, no how. But it just seems to be growing and growing and growing. So Remy would be spending more time at the farm because, you know, we had to figure out how to get him and Nova together, you know, so that this relationship can blossom. So he's going to be using the farm as like a lecturing opportunity for his class because, you know, he teaches the class about farming. So he brings his students out to the farm, and they, you know, he talks about the farmland and, you know, the harvest and the crops and the seasons and all this here. And so that's how they're going to be connected, because now Nova is at the house all the time, you know, looking for things to try to spark her writing, you know, get out of her writer's block and come up with things to write about. And so he tells Nova that, you know, he can remember when Ralph Angel was in his class as if it was like years ago. Remember that. That was just last season when Ralph Angel was taking them classes and then dropped out. So once again, the whole timeline thing ain't adding up. So as Remy is giving a lecture, Nova comes out of the house and engages in a Q&A with the students. And so they were asking her, you know, why isn't she a farmer? And she says that she said something about the dad died a year ago and that, you know, farming was never for her, that it's her brother's calling, and that she and that was her brother's calling, not hers, that she got other things going on. And in the meantime, her and Remy, you know, making goo-goo eyes at each other. I'm like, this is so sickening. So then Nova leaves them and goes into this shed, and she pulls out this fishing rod and a tackle box. Now, tackle box looked brand new, like she had just came from the Walmart buying this green tackle box. And so Remy comes over to say goodbye, and then she starts telling him a story about when she was 10 years old. Her and Ernest used to go fishing together, and one day they were on their way to go fishing when they had a confrontation with these white guys. And then when Ernest got back in the truck, she could see that he had been punched in the eye or something, but he never said what happened during the confrontation, and that was the last time that she ever went fishing with him. You know, that he was sorry that that happened to her, and that, you know, she shouldn't have let that stop her from fishing. So it's the night of the bonfire, and everyone is there except for Darla and Davis, because they weren't invited. So they're all, you know, everybody has a chance to say a few words before tossing their letters into the bonfire. And then Aunt Vi starts everything off by explaining the significance of the bonfire and how the embers floating up to heaven is actually the spirit of the letters delivering the message to the people in heaven or something. And in the background, I thought it was interesting that Waterfalls by TLC was playing. So I don't know what the significance. I'm sure if I sit down and think about it hard enough, I'll catch the meaning of it. So nobody read their letter. They just walked up to the fire, and then they had like their inner thoughts, and they threw their letter into the bonfire. So Michael wanted more time with his grandfather. And then we have a scene where he's back at home and he's watching an old video of a press conference where it was him, Davis, and his mom, and they're at this press conference, and Davis is talking about the importance of family and how, you know, everything he does is for his family. So then Nova says that the family story will live on, and then back at home, she's at her computer writing. Aunt Vi thanks Ernest for always taking care of her. And then back home, her and Hollywood on the back of the boat in the backyard. And she tells Hollywood that she will accept the truck from him, but for him to just be patient as she figured things out and maneuver through this new life that she has. And then Ralph Angel, I couldn't understand what he was saying, because y'all know when Ralph Angel talks low and get the mumbling, we don't know what he's talking about. But back at the house, he pulls out, he's looking at the family tree that Blue had drew last season. And then he pulls out the permission slip for the field trip, and he crosses out his name and adds Darla's name. And then Charley looks over at Prosper, and then she vows that, you know, she's going to take care of everything and make everything right again. And that was the end of the show, guys. Once again, I apologize for being late, but leave your comments. Let me know what you think about the show, specifically the fact that it's only supposed to be a year since Ernest passed away. Leave your comments below, rate the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.